Today, we have a large federal agency urging their workers to leave, pack up their belongings, and head towards the exit. This is causing fear and uncertainty. Then we got some strange things happening within our national parks. Why is this happening? How will it impact you? Let's get into it. The Veterans Affairs, VA, is attempting to cut over 80,000 jobs. VA Secretary Collins is saying this isn't slashing for the sake of slashing, that this is actually to make the government more efficient, to make things run better, to improve veteran care. But it's hard to believe that because what they're essentially doing is they're taking staffing back to 2019 levels. So over the last 6 years, all of that growth, they're trying to take it back. But things are different between now and 2019. One of the huge changes in the veteran community is the PACT Act. So how are you going to cut tens of thousands of jobs and not impact care? Well, Collins is quick to point out that many of the VA positions are exempt from cuts. Who's safe? People like nurses, doctors, therapists, janitors, frontline workers. They're apparently safe. Collins said, and I quote, "If you got nurses, doctors, therapists, people cleaning the rooms, doing the sterilizations, those are the people we need." When you say a statement like that, you are insinuating that you do not need the rest of the workforce. What about the people who process the benefits? What about human resources or IT specialists? You know, the VA has over 10,000 contractors spread out through the country in hospitals and other buildings. Are they in jeopardy of getting cut? It seems like they are. Collins says it's about redirecting resources to where they matter the most: veterans' healthcare and benefits. The VA's 2026 budget actually has a 4% increase for discretionary spending, but Collins wants to spend areas that are focused more towards frontline workers. He wants to take the rest of it, HR, IT, things like that. They want to centralize that. They want to streamline that. Now, despite these cuts, the VA still hires about 1,000 people every 2 weeks. In fact, if you jump on usajobs.gov right now, there's over 3,700 jobs open in a lot of different positions. A lot of them are healthcare. And you might be wondering about the federal hiring freeze. Are we not under a hiring freeze until July 15th? And the answer is yes, we are. But the VA has exempted 300,000 positions. That's like 75% of their entire workforce. They're exempted. So that's why when you go on usajobs.gov right now, you can see a lot of positions. And it's not just frontline workers either. As you scroll through there, you'll see HR positions. You'll see program analyst positions. But the real question is, who's applying to these jobs? It has to be a fraction of who was applying last year. Collins also has a message for underperformers. If you're not motivated to serve veterans, find another job. He goes on to say, if you're doing stuff to harm my veterans, you will no longer fail up in the VA. The phrase fail up is you're an underperformer, you're doing misconduct, let's say you're a GS-11. Somehow you get promoted. Even though you're doing the wrong thing, you find yourself in a GS-12 position. Maybe 2 to 3 years from now, you find yourself in a GS-13 position. That's what failing up means, and they want to end it. Okay, now let's talk about something called community care. This is where the VA pays for the veteran to get treatment, to get care in a non-VA facility. And Collins looks at this as a great thing. He wants to expand upon it. And it could be a good thing, right? If VA facilities are overwhelmed, then you still want to get the veteran care, so it makes sense. But another way to look at it is this will justify further cuts when you're talking about the workforce. Because if you show that a VA facility is understaffed and it doesn't have the capability of providing healthcare to a veteran, that's justification to use outside care, right? And then there's a big difference when you're looking at outside care. You're looking at an urban environment, or are you talking about a rural environment? Because if it's urban, if it's Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, a lot of their medical facilities, they already have a huge wait list. It takes hours to be seen in a lot of cases. But Collins puts it this way: VA care is VA care no matter where. But that's not entirely accurate, because these providers are not VA employees, and they may not follow VA care protocols, coordination systems, or even have veteran-specific training. A remote facility, a remote location might even have rotating staff that are, let's say, contractors. You don't even know how fully vetted these individuals are. So, could it be a solution in a temporary basis? Yeah, probably. But should it be a permanent solution? Probably not. Collins received 7,000 questions from VA employees before the town hall. 20% of the questions were about workforce cuts. 15% of the questions were about the VA's return to office mandate. Now, what you need to realize about the VA is before the pandemic, that agency was one of the leaders when it comes to work at home. They had a lot of their employees working 2 or 3 days at the house. So when the Trump administration came in, they rescinded a lot of their agreements when it comes to telework, except for bad weather or any type of situation that would benefit the agency. Then there is a situational telework agreement with a lot of their workers. But some workers did get exemptions. The Veterans Crisis Line, for example, they got a special exemption after some new hires almost lost their jobs due to a lack of office space. Collins says that the return to office mandate, it's been great. It's been wonderful. It's the best thing that's happened to the VA in a long time. And it's one of the reasons that the disability claim backlog has been able to be reduced substantially, which is correct. That backlog has been reduced. But the reason why, a lot of people, they don't think it's because it's returned to office. It's because of overtime. They are mandating, they are forcing overtime. And because they're doing that, they're able to reduce the backlog. But they're identifying it as a win for return to office. They're using it as a win to showcase how great the return to office mandate is, which to me is a little disingenuous. It's debatable, right? At least it's debatable. I think a lot of people do not agree with it. Now, if you were interested in the VA, right, what do you need to consider? Why are they going to have such a difficult time recruiting into the future? Well, there's a few reasons, really. First, you have federal hiring uncertainty, burnout in direct care roles, pay discrepancies and limitations, political and media pressures. We've also seen agencies target special pays. They want to pull all those pays back. They're trying to get rid of SSR in a lot of situations. They're trying to claw back the retention pay. So there's less of an incentive. It's more of a volatile type career at this point. In 2023, 2024, or really any time, pick any time in the last 80 years, it was more stable, it was more desirable to pursue a career in the public sector, in the federal government. It's not that way right now. Okay, let's shift. Let's shift and look at the National Park Service, NPS, because President Trump recently dropped an executive order that have a lot of people confused. It's called Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History. And it's asking park visitors to look through the brochures, look through the exhibits, look at the signs, and see if there's anything that negatively discusses America's past or present. So that's a very subjective term. What is negative? What is too negative? Can you not have negativity in the history? Can you not have negativity as you're explaining an exhibit? Who's to tell? Is it the Trump administration's decision? Does this mean that we cannot talk about the founding fathers having slaves? Is that too negative? Everyone knows that a lot of the founding fathers had slaves. Thomas Jefferson had a lot of slaves. Everybody understands that. It's in the history books, but is it too negative to include in an exhibit in a national park? The Interior Secretary took it a step further. He told NPS to put up signs with QR codes, asking visitors to flag any park material that seems negative about America or its people. NPS was told to review these comments weekly and then make efforts to replace or to adjust or to cover up anything that might be too negative. So they actually received responses. First week, they had a lot of responses. There was over 200 of them, but none of those comments that came in actually pointed towards something that was negative in the park. Instead, there was a lot of pushback. One visitor in Philadelphia said it felt like an open invitation to police and attack historians for simply doing their job, telling the truth. Another visitor at the park said, the entire purpose of parks like this is to learn from mistakes of the past so we can avoid repeating them. The general idea, the takeaway from these comments is erasing history, erasing the past is not just a bad idea, it's dangerous. For centuries, the winners wrote history. The victor wrote history. But we're kind of at a pivot point at this particular time. And the general consensus is everyone's story deserves to be told. So we'll have to wait to see how this unfolds. As this is happening, recently we had a state senator in Minnesota. She was assassinated. And threats of violence, specifically targeted towards elected officials, have been increasing. So Congress, in light of these recent events, Congress got together, had an urgent meeting, and they discussed increasing the hiring of the USCP. So the USCP is the United States Capitol Police. They have a little over 2,000 employees right now. They're supposed to protect Congress members. They're supposed to protect the Capitol. So they want to increase their budget probably by like around 25%, which has huge implications if you or anyone you know is interested in the CP, the Capitol Police, or any type of law enforcement role. So if you're interested in that and the details on how that assassination happened, I want you to check this video out next. Stay updated by signing up to the free newsletter down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.